Thank you, Mark. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This is quite a deal that Mark put together for me. So it's just kind of hard to believe the store's 100 years old. I don't look 100. If my grandfather, Hal Cofer Sr., would have walked in this store right now, he would have no clue this is what he started. Over that wall over there, we've got some pictures of way back when. We don't have as many pictures as you think we would, but there are some there going back to the beginning of time. And Mark put together a little slideshow here. This is our store in about 1923-24. It's on South Lumpkin Street. You're looking at the Georgia Theater. It's to the right on the corner where I think there's a bank parking lot right there. These bags right here, these are 100 and 200 pound bags. There was no 50-pound bags back then. This is my grandfather. And those of you who knew my uncle, Donald Cofer, Donald's a spitting image of him. This is Johnny Huff, and you'll see Johnny's in several pictures over there. He worked with us pretty much all his life. This is a bookkeeper right here, and the guy that's dressed up the nicest, that's a customer, believe it or not. Funny story about Johnny. Johnny would make an apron out of a burlap sack. And he's not wearing one there. I think he is another picture. He would make a sailor's hat out of a brown paper bag every day. And as a young kid, he tried to teach me how to make a sailor's hat, and I never could figure out how to do it. But Johnny also drove. He taught my father how to drive, my uncles, my aunts how to drive. He basically taught me how to drive. When I was about 12 years old, I didn't realize it at the time, but my father, I'd work in the store in the afternoons playing around, but my father would send me on deliveries with Johnny. We had a little Ford Falcon station wagon. And it wasn't until several years later I figured out why he always wanted me to go on deliveries with Johnny. Well, as he got older, he got cataracts and he couldn't see very well. So I was his eyeballs, and I'd say, all right, Johnny, here's the driveway, turn right. In there. So, neat story, but that's on South Lumpkin, right down from the Georgia Theater. That's our first store. This is a family picture in Wilkes County, where our family's from. And that's H.L. Cofer Sr. right there. If you ever use our restroom facilities, you'll notice there's a big map right there. That's a population map of Wilkes County in 1901. That's a replica of a population map they did. And if you look at it, they actually wrote your name where you lived in the county. And they wrote down there's gold mines down there, and everything is kind of fascinating. So that's my great-grandfather, C.R. Cofer, Charles Randolph Cofer. And that's my grandfather there. You'll notice it's all dirt. I don't know if some of you ever seen the stories. You used to rake your yard. I don't know if Brad's going to talk about that, but you had no grass, you had no bushes, you had a dirt yard, and you raked the yard to make it smooth and neat. And there you see all dirt back there. This kid right here doesn't even have any shoes on. And then this is, we moved to this, right after we opened in the fall of 22 on that Lumpkin Street store, we moved to 378 East Broad Street. This is 350 East Broad Street, where Zombie Donuts is. And a fascinating thing for you guys, Denise, my hero here, raise your hand, Denise. She was researching newspaper articles, trying to find stuff about the store. And I said, send me that link. I want to check that out. And it's Galileo, which runs the university system, the whole statewide system for libraries, and does more than that. So I found a link on there. You can actually go on to Galileo, and on the left side, and I can't remember the name of the link, it said search whatever. You can actually search every newspaper in the state of Georgia back to the beginning of time. So I just simply typed in the name Cofer, Athens, Georgia, and gave it a time frame. And I actually found the announcement in the Athens paper where they announced the opening of the store and moving. So it's pretty neat if you want to go in there and check out stuff. That's my father right there, Johnny Huff again. This fella we had a lawnmower repair shop in the basement of this store. And that's our bookkeeper, Miss Bell. Does anybody know what these baskets are right here? What's that? Those are cotton picking baskets. They're handmade, and those are what they used to pick cotton with. We sold them to rake leaves in, and as a boy, that's what I raked leaves in right there. Sold them for under 20 bucks, probably 15 bucks. Now, if you go to an antique store, they're probably $500, $600 for a rotted out one. This is my grandfather's house on Daring Street. Real unique feature, it had a cupola on it. Unfortunately, that house is not there. If you go down Daring Street and see the Daring Garden Apartments, that's where this was. Steps are still there. Magnolia trees are there. When they sold the house back in the early 60s, 64, 65, were you still living? You weren't in there. Back then, nobody wanted these old houses. Up and down Millage, I remember as a kid them tearing down houses literally every other month, all up and down Millage and Prince Avenue. So the house got sold to a developer, tore it down, put up a apartment complex. The Historical Society History Center, when did we start? Do you know? We sold it before they were started. That's the group that started preserving the houses in Athens. They started a little bit earlier. I still have that house. This is my father, 1946. He missed the Great War by 1 year. He was a weatherman on the USS Philippine Sea. And funny story about that, they were doing maneuvers one day, and on an aircraft carrier, you have to aim the aircraft carrier into the wind, especially back then. Nowadays with jets, it doesn't really matter, but they still do it. But back then, the planes had to be flying up in the air to get enough lift. So they were doing maneuvers one day, and one weatherman stands up in the, what do you call it, wheelhouse, or I don't know what you call it, next to the captain, and has to be telling the captain when they're in the wind and giving all the directions. Another weatherman is down below deck actually reading the instruments. So one day my father's up there, he's giving the captain, all right, turn the ship 3 degrees to the east, whatever. They turn it 3 degrees to the east. He says, nope, wait, go 4 degrees to the west. They turn again. After 3 or 4 times, the captain got mad at him, says, Cofer, you don't know what you're doing. Go down below and send the other guy back up. Well, he was just going to give him the same instructions that the other guy did, so it didn't matter. This is my Uncle Donald Cofer, and if you can see the resemblance between him and his father, it's pretty striking. He was a member of Chi Phi fraternity, and the strange thing is, my son Stephen Cofer, the 4th generation, is also a Chi Phi. He found that picture on a composite in the house, and some of you know my son. My son has the same jawline, narrow look, looks pretty much like Donald does. This is a seed catalog from 1951. It says 57. It's 51. We started out as a farm supply store. That's what Athens was. Athens was not a university town. In 1922, if I had to take a wild guess, maybe 5,000 students, maybe. Probably less than that. So we were a farm supply store, and we supplied all of Northeast Georgia, the farmers in Northeast Georgia. We went all the way down in northern part of Florida, delivering stuff and supplies. What's interesting about this, right here, is a picture of the warehouse. We used to own the whole block behind our store on Broad Street. And this warehouse there is now the Delta Innovation Hub for the University of Georgia. They just dedicated it about a month ago. When they were redoing that warehouse, I got to give UJ a lot of credit. They're big in preservation on older buildings. So this building had been painted gray, and they were stripping that gray paint off, and our logo is still on that wall right there. And so Jimmy Williamson, the retired police chief for UGA, works in the president's office. He called me up and said, hey, we found your logo on the side of this warehouse. Do you have a picture of that by any chance? I said, nah, Jimmy, I don't have a picture of that, but I tell you, I'll look around. This catalog's sitting on my bookcase in my office. I picked it up, turned it over, and there's the picture. They're right there. So I sent it to him. It's pretty fascinating in there. What's unique is this door right here. There's a railroad track right there, railroad siding. And across the street from us was Thornton Brothers Paper Company. They had a railroad siding. So we would get in occasionally materials on a boxcar in there. So kind of neat piece there. This is interesting here. We had a store up in Gainesville, Georgia back in the early 60s. I can barely remember it. and that's downtown. We closed the store. Gainesville was doing a revitalization of downtown and tore that area down, so we had to close that store. What's unique about this, there's our store. That's President Lyndon B. Johnson right there. And this is about 63 or 64. You know what's unique about that? He's riding in an open-air car less than 2 years after the previous president got assassinated, riding in an open-air car. A friend of my wife's, Carol, sent that picture to me. I'd never seen it before. So these are two Secret Service guys right here, and that's a policeman on top of the roof right there. This is a picture probably the first year or two we moved in here. We moved in this location in 93. So that's my brother with a mustache, my Uncle Donald, me when I had a little bit more hair, and my father Hal right there. Yeah. And this is my father won the Athens Chamber of Commerce Businessman of the Year in 1996. He was out of town. I got to go get the trophy for him. I gave it to him about a year later. Told him I won it. You know, he didn't know. This is a neat little shot. This is in the back of the nursery. Snowing. Rain barrels. That's during the drought. Picture's probably about 2007, 2008. So we sold a lot of rain barrels then. Old managers were here one day. Must have been, I think, for one of our open houses, Carol. Gary Gleason, who worked on and off for us for probably 25 years. Toby Brown worked for me for about 6-7 years. He's now our sales rep for Greenleaf Nursery. and then Jason McCarty was an assistant manager for several years. So they were all back here together one day. And this is James Huff. He's passed away recently, but James was with us for, 30 years. He was with us when we were downtown, across the street. James was a trip. A funny story about him. Right where you see him standing, I was there watering the plants or doing something right there. And James came up to me one day. This was in the summertime. It was probably in July, 100 degrees outside. He said, "Stuart, there's a deer in the back." I said, "What?" "Yeah, there's a deer in the nursery." I said, "James, you need to go inside. You've been in the heat too much." He leaves. I don't believe him. A few minutes later, another employee comes back up and says, "Hey, did you see the deer that was back in the nursery back there?" No, I didn't. This is a picture of me, Herbert Lee, employee there. We delivered Christmas trees to the hurricane victims down in Mexico Beach, Panama City, Florida, that Christmas. So there we are dropping those trees off. That was quite a rewarding trip to give some relief to those folks. One last thing before I go, got a neat little story. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this little book. It's called the Haiku Year. Get on Amazon. I don't make any money on it, but it's got our seed packet on there, 15 cents. So this is probably a seed packet from back in the 40s. So we get a call one day about 93, 94 from the publisher of this. It says, "Hey, can we use this seed packet for the cover of this book?" And I said, "Well, what's the story about it?" He said, "Well, Michael Stipe of REM and 3 of his friends want to do this book, and they're going to write a haiku every day for a year. And they want to use your seed packet on the cover." And I said, "Well, sure, give us some autographed copies. We'll let them do it." Well, I'm the guy who gave him that seed packet. And I remember it because he got that from me probably about 20 years prior to them wanting to use this. When I was a teenager or maybe in college at our downtown store, this guy walks in, long-haired guy wearing a big coat, and had a seed packet and said, "Hey, do you have any more of these? I'd like to collect these." I didn't think anything. And we have still got it back there in the back, a big cabinet of old seed packets from over the years. I said, "Yeah, come on." I took him upstairs, let him go through, and he just grabbed a bunch of these seed packets and then walked out the door. I didn't know who he was. I don't even think he was in the band at that time. And lo and behold, about 25 years later, there he is with our seed packet on the cover. So I thought that was kind of neat. So that's all I've got. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Valentine now. But again, thanks again for coming, everybody.